Welcome everyone and good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us for the next webinar in the American Express and Natural Trust for Historic Preservation Partners in Preservation webinar series. We're very excited to be here with you again. My name is Darian Rodriguez-Heyman.
And my name is Ritu Sharma.
And we are the co-founders of Social Media for Nonprofits. We're working with MX to help build the capacity of all the participating sites in the Partners in Preservation campaign to help make sure that win or lose, all of you are able to really improve your social media savvy and also really be as successful as possible with the upcoming campaign. So we're very happy to be here. Today, we're really here to talk about looking at the integration between on and offline efforts, especially as it relates to events, but also just in general. And now that we've done a couple primers and sort of best practices and strategy-focused webinars, we're going to delve more into the how-to with a wide variety of tools. And we'll review the agenda in just a moment. But for now, just wanted to say thank you for joining us. So we are working with American Express. They are underwriting our time so that we are completely freely accessible to each and every one of you, as well as all of the other participating sites. We're really doing two different things. One, as I mentioned a second ago, is that we are conducting this webinar series really specifically and concretely focused on the Partners in Preservation campaign and how you can perform as optimally as possible as it relates to the upcoming campaign. So as far as the webinar series, that looks like a couple different things. I believe Siri just sent out the email with the links to the two webinars we've already done. The first one was just looking at online contests in general, best practices, how to really drive performance from your base and how to build that base up and activate your most active and most promising members. The last one that we did was focused on engaging your community. And once you have a base of supporters, how can you communicate with them in a meaningful way that's going to drive action? Today, as I mentioned, we're here to talk about integrating your on and offline efforts. And then later this week, we'll be doing one on building a bigger fan base through Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms. And then finally, on Friday, we'll be looking at a couple specific platforms, Storify, Pinterest, Tumblr, and some of you might have seen the news about Instagram getting bought for $1 billion by Facebook this week. So there's certainly a big buzz going on around that. The other thing that we're helping with are one-on-one coaching calls. Again, these are available at no charge to you, thanks to American Express's support. We've already had coaching calls, 60-minute one-on-one calls with quite a few of the folks that are joining us today live for the webinar. And the rest of you would certainly encourage you to click the link in Siri's email to schedule something and really take advantage of this resource. We are available for up to 3 calls per participant, and so we encourage you to get in touch with us. Please feel free to email us directly. Our email's at the end of this presentation and in Siri's email. If any of the times that are posted online do not work for you, we're happy to do everything we can to accommodate your busy schedules.
So how many, by a show of hands, your platform allows you to raise your hand, how many of you that are joining us today have already scheduled or participated in one call, actually participated in one, in a one-on-one call?
All right, Carl and Amy. I know Dana and I got a chance to chat. Alyssa, we had a nice discussion. So we've definitely been getting some good engagement on the coaching calls. And again, we are doing those on a go-forward basis, so please take advantage of that resource that American Express is graciously making available to you. And we'd love to work one-on-one with each of you regarding your plans for the Partners in Preservation campaign and your social media efforts in general. So now let's get into it. Again, our focus today is really how you can use events to promote your Partners in Preservation campaign. As I mentioned, all of the webinars we're doing are really concretely focused on the upcoming campaign and how you can make the biggest splash possible. So we're going to look at leveraging online tools to promote your campaign, especially around events, and really how to capture live audiences, which so far pretty much everyone that we've spoken with has a really substantial in-person presence, and how do you convert that to online action?
So we're going to get started with, one might ask, why would you use social media for events? It increases your reach. It really does. It allows you to reach people that you otherwise didn't know, because it allows you to position and present your content in front of friends of friends. So if you are connected with me, not only are you promoting your events to me and promoting your participation in the PIP campaign to me, you're also promoting it when I comment or like something to all the people that I know. So that's really important to appreciate that. It's relatively low cost. There's a very low barrier to entry in social platforms. There is a cost when it comes to staff time, but many of these platforms are available freely to you. So that's really a big plus. Viral effect, we already talked about, friends of friends and networks. It helps spread the word in a much wider circle. So we'll get started right away. When you have an event, most of you are going to have an open house for the PIP campaign to kick that off. By a show of hands, how many of you have already scheduled it? Okay, I see some of you have scheduled already. Oh, good. Let's see, almost everybody.
Just about everybody. That's wonderful. And I know that in the coaching calls we've been having, the open houses are really a huge platform that pretty much all of you are looking at taking advantage of. So we're really glad to see that.
So once you're able to go live and talk about your participation, you should make your Facebook page, you should have a Facebook event and make that live. What I would recommend doing is creating a Facebook event, getting it all set to go with right messaging and ready to go, but not making it live, so making it only in a draft format. If you're not sure how to do that, I would wait to have everything ready and make it only after the 26th so you don't break the embargo. But have all your content ready, create a Facebook page, and as soon as the embargo is lifted, schedule an hour or two in the morning to make this event live and to invite all the folks that you know. If you have audience, now what I recommend is creating events and promoting events in the platforms that you have connections in. If you have a robust LinkedIn presence, or any of your staff members have a LinkedIn presence, I would recommend creating a LinkedIn event also. But if you don't have presence, I would not. It's just because there is a venue to promote doesn't mean you have to do that. Pick and choose platforms where you have good connections, so that's time well spent for you. As you can see here, you can, on the screen, this is the event description. As people sign up and say, I'm coming, or I'm considering, or I'm recommending, it shows the information here. With the new LinkedIn changes, it also shows you people that you as an organizer should plan on meeting, or that you may have something in common with. It shows you that. And then it also shows you who all are attending, people by company. It gives you a lot of information about them. The other thing is it allows you to share this event that you created in LinkedIn with people on Twitter and Facebook, as you can see, or you can grab this link and send people an email as well. But as you share your events, it shows up in your network's feed, and that's how it spreads the word.
And you can see that the examples we're using here are from our conference series, Social Media for Nonprofits. We're doing events all around the country and now the world. So these are actual examples that we've used. And I know from our experience, we had over 2,500 nonprofit leaders at our initial series of 9 conferences across 7 events. About 30 to 40% of those were coming through through LinkedIn and Facebook events, and then more of those were coming through Facebook ads, which we'll get into later in this presentation.
Yeah, we've had about 60% of our traffic in our events, not just traffic, but converted traffic. About 60% of people, it's actually a very interesting example. In our first event in San Francisco, where we are based out of, we had every reason to believe that 60 to 70% of the folks that will walk through the door will be through our networks. Both Darren and I are very, very connected in the nonprofit community, and we fully expected to see that break. But when we did the analysis, over 60 to 70% of people came through finding out about it online and not just through our network. And that was amazing to see, especially in San Francisco, where we just did not expect that.
Yeah, so the point here is that this is a really great platform to help you expand your base and grow your audience.
And once you create your events, go ahead and post them on a number of community calendars. Whether it is Chamber of Commerce, there's an online community calendar called PlanCast. It allows like-minded people who express interest in whether it's museum or historic preservation or any of those interests. It allows them to find out about your event even if they're not connected with you or they're not connected in your network. It just makes a broad announcement. In Facebook events, when you create Facebook events, this is one question that we get very consistently, which is, how do I invite people who I'm not connected to? Because you can only invite people that you're connected to. So what we do is we obviously invite all the speakers, friends, people that we know that might be interested in, just by clicking their names and adding them to the guest list. But you will notice at the bottom of the page where my mouse is right now, it says invite by email address. It allows you to invite people that are not connected to you or your organization on Facebook. So in our case, which is a very good practice I recommend, is as you start getting RSVPs from people or as you start getting registrations, if you do have a registration platform, I recommend entering their email addresses in this email area, adding a personal message, thank you for registering, this is the agenda, we'll communicate any changes, or we'll communicate raffle prizes as they come along or something. And something really personal, we look forward to seeing you there and thank you for your support of our museum or something. And that makes it so personal. And even though they have RSVP'd already and registered, they're very likely to go ahead and say, on Facebook, I am coming, and that's how you encourage people and make it something that shows up in their feed. One last point on this. If you just entered the email, you can enter up to 6 emails before Facebook starts telling you you can't enter anymore. So do it in batches of 5 or 6 at a time. Also, make sure to include even if it's a one-line message, because if there is no message, it shows up in their events tickler where they have the event section on Facebook feed. But if you include a message, it actually shows up on the top of the page where you see the 3 little places where you see the red 1, 2, 3 or any kind of notifications. So it's really important to add even if it's one-line message, hey, look forward to seeing you there. That helps a lot.
And, you know, just bear in mind, number one, aside from adding that really important personal message, if there is content you can make available exclusively on the Facebook event, that'll give people a really good reason to register, whether that's, you know, join us and follow us for the most updated list of artists or whatever the case may be. The other thing is that as people sign up and RSVP via Facebook, it will show their friends and contacts and followers that they've done so, which will, again, give you access to a broader audience. So that's certainly something we recommend.
And one last point on that. For Facebook events, I realize most of you will have open houses that are not paid, but when you do have paid events and the registration is not through Facebook, always remember to write a line saying, if you thank you for RSVPing, you must register. This is a ticketed event, you must register and provide that link separately, because you don't want to have confusion with people in a paid event where they say we RSVP'd but our name is not on there or we don't have a name badge. However, if it's not a paid event, what I recommend doing is pulling out your attendee list from Facebook events. It has an export feature at the top right corner, and using that or merging that with your main RSVP list. What you don't want to do is in a free event give people a way of RSVPing and not recognized at the door. Only time you want to do that is when it's a paid event, because obviously people need to pay in advance, and in that case you make that disclaimer very clear. Okay.
So, you know, the point we want to make here is try as many things as possible and see what works, and basically do more of what works and less of what doesn't. It sounds pretty straightforward, but in a fast-paced environment like social media and online in general, where you have such ready access to data and to information, see what works, test, 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 and basically fail fast, fail forward. What that looks like in terms of how that translates into the social media landscape is, as Ritu mentioned just a second ago, make sure that not only for people that have RSVP'd through traditional channels, whether that's online registration or in person, that they get an invitation to RSVP via Facebook, but also all of the connections of the organization, and ideally even some personal followers of staff members, board members, your campaign captains, if you implement that solution, which we've talked about in the past webinars. All of those folks should be invited to attend that event, and at the very least, to spread the word as a result. And that can happen on multiple platforms. It's not just specific to Facebook. That can look, like sending out tweets with a link, whether that's to the Facebook or the LinkedIn event, etc. You also certainly want to send out messages to your email list if you have one of those, your LinkedIn community, and what have you. So really, like I said, let 1,000 flowers bloom and see what works.
Wonderful. And we'll get into now, how do you promote? Now you've created your events. How do you promote it on Facebook? And we'll go through other platforms in this presentation. But with Facebook, how you do that, and we'll take, for example, your open house. So let's speak specifically to when you are able to speak about your open house. We recommend posting regular updates, pictures, performers, VIPs, auction items. What that looks like is, if you're having if you have a garden community and you're having different contests or different activities, you're planning on having some kind of drawing or something for kids, post not all in one time. And a one-day post about this activity taking place for kids. Post about a musician or a performer if you're going to have a juggler, any VIPs that are going to roll through. So don't post all the important updates about your event in one time. Post about announcing your PIP campaign or PIP open house, say in the morning. In the afternoon, announce more your event and make the event registration open. Next day, post about pictures of how you're getting ready and what kind of treats are in store for your folks. If you have any auction items, don't release all auction items all at once. Say every day, if you do happen to have some kind of raffle or auction, every day announce a new item. And that keeps the buzz building and spreading, and it keeps the momentum going for your folks. If you have partners, and many of you, as we have learned from your one-on-one calls, many of you have partners who are supporting you or will be supporting you. Give shout-outs to them occasionally. We are excited to be working with so-and-so in this capacity. Come see them and come see us. Make it fun, make it friendly, make it conversational, and spread it out is the key messaging here. Fun, friendly, spread it out, not all at once, and make it really conversational. If you start making announcements, people actually, not just people, but all of us are programmed to tune out, and we want to get people's attention and not pass by. So make it fun, make it friendly, include a nice picture in that update, and that will go a long way.
Yeah, and as we mentioned in some of the previous webinars, anytime you can ask a question, it's going to get much more engagement from your community. Also, as Ritu mentioned, don't just make announcements. It has to be conversational. So try and mix in at least 50% of your posts via Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms that should be not just about your organization, your efforts in the campaign, but about industry news, about the history of one of your artists, anything that's relevant that really positions you as a key influencer and as a leading authority in the field. That's really important. She also mentioned the importance of posting pictures, and whether it's photos or videos, especially on Facebook, that's going to help make sure that your post is viewed by a larger audience, a higher percentage of the people that follow you, because of those algorithms that we've talked about in the past that Facebook uses to determine which content is going to be most interesting and therefore should be displayed to as many of your followers as possible. So simply end your post with a question mark and include a photo or video, and that's going to catapult it forward. And as Ritu mentioned, also be consistent, and kind of find and follow your drumbeat. Continue to engage more of a rolling thunder approach versus sort of a shotgun where you just send out one message with a lot of different information. And finally, when you're mentioning those performers, those VIPs, the partners, etc., make sure that they're tagged in your post so that they see that that post went up and will hopefully comment, like, or share it. And that's really simple to do. Just put an @ sign before their name in the Facebook post, and their Facebook tag will come up in your post so that they're basically hyperlinked, and then they will get a message saying you've been tagged in a post, which almost invariably leads to them checking out that post and hopefully interacting with it.
And one creative idea for promoting and creating content, one of the questions that I am getting in our calls is, how do I come up with so much content? So we gave you some examples in this call about all the different folks or stakeholders that you can comment on or include in your post. Another is to take a flip cam, which you can get through TechSoup, TechSoup.org, at a very, very low cost. Get a flip cam or buy one and go around in your staff and people that are walking through and ask them what they think about the institution, the organization, its role, and go through that. This is another important one. Post more pictures and videos versus announcements. Anything cute, little kids running around in a garden or a park or a museum, or showing curiosity on their face, anything of that nature goes a really long way, and it makes people engage a lot more.
So we just had a question from Christy regarding the Christine, sorry, regarding the URL for the FlipCam. That's at TechSoup, so TechSoup.org. I'm going to go ahead and send that out to everyone. Just so you know, this is something that is a great resource in general, because you can buy software for about 2 cents on the dollar here if you're a registered nonprofit. They also have discounts on telecommunications infrastructure, a lot of services, and also some hardware like those flip cams. So definitely check out TechSoup.
And then with FlipCam, it's a high definition. Most of you must have seen it. It's a small high definition video camera, and that plugs right into your laptop for promoting to Facebook or any other platform from there on. Any other questions? So far, we want to make it as interactive as we can, but if you have any questions, please feel welcome to just send us through the questions platform or raise your hand, and we'll bring you in the conversation.
Absolutely. So Ritu already mentioned this point, which is hugely important, so we just wanted to underscore it in terms of making sure that as attendees register through traditional channels, whether that's online registration, ticket office, whatever the case may be, make sure to capture their emails and then invite them to RSVP through Facebook as they register.
And be sure to tag attendees, partners, pretty much anyone you can tag in your post, so it goes into their networks as well, and it's not just your network that sees it. And that's the real benefit of utilizing social media. And
that's especially true for photos or videos that you're posting. If you take a picture of an audience or of a tour happening or of, an artist at an opening, whatever the case may be, make sure to take the extra second to tag those people, because then, just like tagging them in a post, they will get an email, and most definitely they will click on that, go see the photo, go see the video or the post, take a look at it, and then hopefully they're going to go ahead and share that with their network.
And this is limited to people who have the resources available, but I think it's really important to mention that Facebook also has ads capabilities, and you can promote your event through ads. What Facebook ads look like, we'll cover those in our next coming webinar as well, where we'll get deeply into how to create ads. But for right now, we want to mention that you can utilize Facebook ads that allow you to target your demographic very narrowly. They allow you to target people. So when you create an ad, you can tell Facebook to show that ad only to people who are either connected to your organization or not connected to your organization, are of certain age group. If they are between, if everybody that walks through your door is between 25 and 40, then you don't want your ad to be shown to anybody but that, because you want to maximize the impact of your ad. So if you're promoting your event in through Facebook ads, you want to target that to a certain age group. You can target people based on their interests or people that they or the nonprofits they like. So if people like any kind of national historic preservation, if they like anything that has a similar focus as yours. For example, we have people from the Native American Museum, so thought leaders on Native American art, Native American preservation, culture, history. Any of those organizations would make for a good targeting organization. If you target those people, it will show to people who have like similar interests.
And one thing to note here is that American Express is actually undertaking a pretty extensive Facebook ad campaign. In addition to all the marketing and PR they're doing to promote the Partners in Preservation program in general, they're also going to be doing a pretty extensive suite of Facebook ads. Again, that will be promoting the campaign in general, driving engagement, encouraging people to vote through the Facebook site as well as through the main website. However, if you do have the resources, you could possibly run a Facebook campaign and do ads specifically driving people to your Facebook page. Specifically driving people to your Facebook page, driving them to your website, taking them directly to the page where they can vote for your organization, etc. And Carl's asking the question in terms of how much these ads cost. That really does vary based on a variety of criteria. As Ritu mentioned, you can target these pretty narrowly. So you could say we only want to show ads to males aged 25 to 50 with a bachelor's degree that are based in the tri-state area and that have interest in the arts, music, this particular band. I was on the phone with one of the organizations today who's going to have Bruce Springsteen come and perform at their organization. So anybody that's following him, etc., as well as Ritu mentioned, if you've got key partners, who's following those partners? If there's other nonprofits or organizations that are in your same space, then anybody that's following those partners, etc. And the other thing you can do here is use a free tool which is called Facebook Insights, which really is a tool through Facebook, an analytics and measurement tool to look at who your audience is, who's following you on Facebook currently, etc. And so that's a really great way to identify, are we skewing more male or female, where are people from, what time of day are they logging on, etc.
And we'll move into Twitter at this point. So one of the first things I ask that you do when you start promoting your event on Twitter is to create a hashtag. There is a hashtag for PIP in general, but that will catalog conversations from 40 different sites. The purpose of creating a hashtag is for you and for other people, for both you and people that follow you, to be able to just enter the hashtag in the search and see what everybody is talking about in that particular conversation. So you create a hashtag that's a very simple 6 to 7 letter, pretty much, no more than that, and it's usually preceded by a hash or a pound sign. In our case, we have a pretty big name, Social Media for Nonprofits. So our hashtag is SM4NP, that's pound SM4NP. And what we do is anytime we are talking about our conference series or registration or ticketing or speakers or partners, anything to do with this conference series itself, we tag or we end our Twitter tweet with SM4 and pound SM4NP. And when we search it, we can see not only what we are promoting about our conference, but what other people are saying about it too.
And hopefully that hashtag can really become a meme that people start using and adding onto their tweets anytime they're posting some related content. And that's another way to get great visibility. We're going to talk more about hashtags in 1 second, but I did just want to circle back to the Facebook ad question from Carl because I want to specifically answer how much do the ads cost. As I mentioned, you can target them based on a variety of different criteria. Facebook will then tell you what a recommended bid is per click, per like, per impression, etc., and that will vary based on the targeting. You can set a daily budget limit. So you could say you only want to spend $50 a day, $20 a day, or $100 a day. And then again, you can also specify how much you want to pay per click, per like, or per impression. So basically, you can set your own budget. And it's a good thing to mess around with and experiment with to the extent you're able to do that. So let's dive more into Twitter and the hashtags in particular. So as Ritu mentioned, a hashtag is simply a word preceded by a pound sign. And what this does is it unifies tweets from multiple different people on the same subject. As she mentioned, we use pound SM for MP for social media for nonprofits. We use that whenever we're promoting our events. We use that whenever we're posting about industry news. And what's cool, as I mentioned, is now other people are using that pound sign when they're talking about anything related to the field of social media for social good. And of course, when they use that, some of the people that are following them may click on that pound sign, that hashtag, and all of a sudden start to get exposure to the conferences we're organizing and other related events and projects. So it's a great way to promote visibility. As Ritu mentioned, it makes it easy to search and for people to find you. And it also really creates a catalog of your event, of your project, of your cause, so you can go look back historically and see kind of what's happened. And the key here, as she mentioned, because you're dealing with an attention economy where people are only allowed to post no more than 140 characters on Twitter, you really do need to keep it short and keep it to no more than 6 to 7 characters. So try and figure out a hashtag that you can use as an abbreviation for your name or your concept.
And you don't have to register your hashtag, but what I would recommend doing when you decide what is your hashtag is, number one, when you decide that this is what is a short form of my organization or the name of my event or my open house, you decide that and then you enter that into Twitter search and see if it's already in use by somebody else. You don't want to use a hashtag that's already widely used by somebody else because it's going to confuse those people who are already using it. So a good practice is to decide what you're thinking, come up with 3 or 4 different options, and then go into Twitter search bar. It is on the top of the page if you go to twitter.com and enter that hashtag and see what comes up. If it's one-off tweet, it's okay, but if it's a lot of conversation, then try the next one. And then once you find something that you really like, it's a good practice to do is to go and register your hashtag for free at either TWUBS or Tagalas, and all it does is it sets a place for you to write down the definition of what you really meant by SM4NP or PIP, because it could mean 1,000 things, and if somebody is curious about all these conversations coming about PIP, what is this? You go to one of these places and you can see, and it also just creates a good practice of documenting that you started using it and you kind of follow the best practice around that. And you were the first one to do that because it catalogs by date as well.
That's a great point. Hijacking is not in anyone's best interest, and it will certainly confuse your audience as well as the audience of the existing player. So in terms of getting the word out about your hashtag, obviously if a tweet falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, doesn't really make a sound, right? And so the point is creating a hashtag is not sufficient. You need to actually get that out into the world. And a couple of ways to do that. One is just simply anytime you're posting about your event, anything coming out from your organization that's related to that topic that you created a hashtag for, whether it's your organization as a whole, a particular event, a campaign you're doing like Partners in Preservation, etc., you want to make sure that you include that hashtag in all outbound communication about that topic. That's really crucial, and that's sort of step one, and really the fundamental purpose of creating the hashtag to begin with. But then the next step is to encourage adoption of that hashtag by your audience and by others in the industry, whether that's attendees at the event, whether that's people that are coming to your theater and seeing shows that are going to send out tweets about what a great concert that was or great opening or exhibit. You want to certainly let them know, whether that's through verbal announcements, signage, projecting the image up on a screen, whatever it's going to take to increase awareness of that hashtag and really encourage people to go ahead and use it. I know at our conferences we even do something we call a tweet out, kind of like a shout out, where we put up a screen that says pound SM for MP with a question on it, and then we take a minute and say, okay, everybody, answer this question, or share this, your favorite memory of this institution, and add this hashtag so that you can make sure that everybody can see that interaction.
Okay. So what I would do for Twitter for promoting your events is schedule regular tweets that talk about voting, talk about the event, talk about the artists, important deadline, especially deadlines around voting. Every week have a voting time. Like this half hour, we're going to talk about what all these changes would mean, and if we were to win the contest, how are we going to change our institution, what kind of services we'll provide. Host a small tweet chat or something where you're talking about the impact of winning the contest. Also look at, just like we recommended on Facebook, similarly on Twitter, schedule things that are not in bulk, because it's, first of all, it's only 140 characters. So use that wisely to talk about the upcoming voting. This is the scheduled voting hour. Everybody that's a supporter of this or that, talk about this hour. We're going to be online and answering any questions and sharing information. Create scheduled events that help you drive traffic and help you drive voting.
And we talked about this in the first webinar, but as we mentioned with Facebook, try and include media like photos and videos. That's going to increase their popularity and engagement by your base. With Twitter, try and include links. So think of Facebook as a photo economy and Twitter as a link economy. And because you only have 140 characters, that's not a lot of space. So if you can include a link in there where people can go for more information or to vote for you in your campaign, or to register for the event, even if it's on Facebook or your website, that's a really great use of the tool. And the other thing is, we've also talked about scheduling tools, and that's a great way to schedule things in advance on Twitter. Again, you don't want to use this for Facebook because it will decrease the priority of the post and less people will see it. But with Twitter, it's really valuable to just spend an hour or two, even at the beginning of the month or before the Partners in Preservation campaign, to schedule out as many tweets as possible. That way you don't have to actually log into Twitter to put posts up when you want to send out those messages.
And in addition to posting about all the things we've talked about, post tweets that showcase the work of organizations of your artists, partners, attendees, sponsors. That's really important because it becomes a one-sided conversation very quickly, and you get kind of framed into an announcement mode. But if you start talking about trivia questions about artists or trivia questions about your organization or questions and answers about organizations that are supporting you and have similar mission, it gives you some fodder or some content for talking about on a regular basis and not just making announcements. How many of you are fans of this artist, or how many of you have done this at a museum? Have you found this little scavenger hunt item or something? So kind of make it really fun, friendly, and conversational on Twitter just as much as on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hugely important point. We talked about this before earlier when we said, don't just make announcements and don't use these social platforms as a megaphone. You want to be in conversation. You want to talk about the issue, not just the organization or your particular campaign. And just think of it as, you show up to a cocktail party, and if all somebody does that you come into contact with is talk about themselves, pretty quickly you're going to pretend like your cell phone's ringing or find an excuse to get away from them and talk to somebody else. So you really want to engage folks in conversation and also talk about, more than just your organization or your campaign.
Retweet and reply religiously. After you have worked on creating great messaging, diverse messaging, conversational messaging, people are going to either retweet that, reply to that, or spread that word. So anytime you go on Twitter, spend 5-10 minutes every time you log in to see if anybody has mentioned you or retweeted you or asked you a question. Make sure to retweet things that you think that are relevant from your partners, sponsors, attendees, artists, and also reply. if you see any kind of comment, even if that reply is just to say, thank you for spreading the word, if somebody is spreading the word for you, thank you for promoting our contest, or thank you for your vote or something, find ways to engage and give back so it's not a one-way conversation. And that really means religiously spending 10 to 15 minutes every single day when you log in to make sure you have answered and retweeted yourself, and also acknowledge people that are supporting you. That goes a very long way in ensuring their continued support.
Yeah, this is hugely important, and you know, again, you want to send out information beyond just info about your organization or your campaign. Retweeting is one really simple way because it literally only takes 2 clicks to identify some interesting information and then send that out to your network. Plus, it makes you a good citizen, or Twitizen, I guess would be the word. If people send you a message, make sure to reply to that. And then if people are retweeting your messages, as Ritu mentioned, make sure you recognize their contribution, even just by sending them a brief message through Twitter saying, thanks for the RT, thanks for the retweet. So I briefly mentioned Hootsuite earlier. This is a really great free tool. There are some paid upgrades available for it. But even just the free version allows you to schedule your tweets in advance. So, you know, one thing you can do is if you want to tweet out a message, be aware of the fact that on average only about 2% of your followers on Twitter are going to see any one of your messages. And the people that see your message in the morning might be different than the afternoon or the evening or on Monday versus Wednesday, etc. So, you know, you're not allowed to post the same exact tweet, whether it's directly through Twitter or through a tool like Hootsuite. But what you can do through a tool like this is just through cut and paste, essentially post the same tweet, but change it up just a tiny bit so that you could post the same tweet 5 or 10 times, you know, across different times, across different days, so that you reach a higher percentage of your audience. And that is acceptable in Twitter etiquette to sort of repeat yourself, just because folks recognize that this is sort of a, you know, a stream of consciousness type environment. The other thing that you can do is, even if you're talking about multiple different messages, if you, to the extent you know what those are going to be, especially around the Partners in Preservation campaign, you can schedule those tweets in advance as far out as you want. So ideally, it allows you to kind of lay down some cover fire, and you know that you've already got 2 tweets per day scheduled for the entire campaign duration that are messages that you know you're going to want to say at that time, reminding people to vote for the day, whatever the case may be. And then you can certainly add in additional tweets and messages as things arise, whether it's a news article or some big announcement, etc.
And like Dorian said earlier, just to summarize that very quickly and keep moving, do not use Hootsuite for Facebook. It doesn't. It affects how it affects the popularity of your post, and it affects who sees it. So it's not a good tool to use for Facebook. And you can do mass direct messaging. You have to be very careful about that. What mass direct messaging means, and how I have used it in the past, is you can send a direct message, which is not on your Twitter feed, but it goes to somebody's message folder. You can send either directly to that person, or you can, if you have, or if you're collecting everybody's Twitter handles that is registering, or you happen to know that, or all the artists and all the partners, you can send a direct message to them through Hootsuite, just like you would send a regular tweet. You can use the @ symbol and the word M before that, and in that creates a direct message, and you can send it to 5, 10, or 50 people at the same time. Don't use it as spam. Use it very targeted, very careful, and when it's used as intended, it's a very powerful tool, but if you overuse it, it loses its effectiveness. So I recommend just realizing that that option is available to you, and you can direct message all your attendees or people that you're working with, partners and sponsors and so on. This is one of the screenshots for Hootsuite. So this is how you can see what I have scheduled here is you can schedule your own hashtag on Hootsuite. If you do choose to use this tool, we don't endorse this over any other. This is what we use for ease of use. You can set up columns on your main dashboard, so at all times you can see anything that's being said for pound your hashtag. your organization's entire name. You want to do that as well and not just the pound. So anytime people are talking about you, whether they're talking about your hashtag or your organization's entire name shows up on Twitter, you can take a look and see if you need to respond to that. An example of that is during one of our events, somebody talked about what a great event it looks like, and they wish they could attend, but they didn't have the means. And if we were just looking at the hashtag, which is mostly used by people who are fairly savvy in technology or in Twitter, we would have missed out that tweet. But because we researched a number of different areas to catch any conversations taking place about our organization, we were able to catch that person's comment and reach out to them and offer them a scholarship. So the moral of the story is be on the lookout for what is being said and talked about your organization, whether it's via your hashtag or your organization's name or your ED's name, because sometimes you'll hear that as well.
And really quickly, I know we talked about this in the first webinar, but you see down here that a lot of these tweets have PLSRT. That's a Twitter abbreviation for please retweet. And just simply by having that in there, you know, about 20% more people will retweet your messages. So that's certainly something that you're going to want to include in as many tweets as possible.
And one last thing while we're at the screen is to look at one other benefit of using a platform like Hootsuite or TweetDeck or anything else you decide is to see this, where my mouse is right now. You can see which links were very popular or which tweets were really popular. That's really important to see because you want to see what kind of messaging is taking traction with your audience. And you want to do more of that. But if you see there's a certain type of messaging that's not taking traction at all, then you know what to do less of and what to do more of in terms of your event. So if you have, say, 7 or 8 artists and 1 or 2 artists are garnering more attention or are spreading the word, you want to not completely take out the other folks, but you know that every time you talk about this particular activity or artist, you're getting more traction, so you talk a little bit more about that compared to others. There are other tools that we recommend if you are going to get into Twitter. One of them is Simply Measured Row Feeder. If you just enter that, simplymeasured.com or rowfeeder.com, that's a good place for you to gather a lot of Twitter data. It is not a free program. It is actually a paid program. But if you go to their website, on the very top of their website, they have what's called freebies. They have about 6 or 7 of their reports that are free. And those are the reports that we're talking about. We're not recommending their service over any other, but they have really good free data visualization reports. I would recommend that. They have some reports in there. All you have to do is enter your organization's Twitter handle, and you will see who's following you. And I'm going to show you some of those reports here. It shows you, while you're in your campaign time for promoting the contest, you want to see of all your audience that are following you and listening to you talk about the contest, what are their top time zones? Because if even though you are located in New York City, but if a lot of your traction or a lot of supporters are in the Midwest, and that's where you're getting traction, and you see that, oh, I have a lot of people talking about in the Midwest time zone, you want to schedule more tweets there, you want to have more staff online at that time, just to ensure that you could rally that base where you have the most active followers. And this first left image shows you where our audience is. In this particular case, it happens to be 32% of the audience for this organization is in Eastern time. 28% is in Pacific time. So it's a pretty good split for us to know that we need to start, if we are based out of West Coast, or this organization is based out of West Coast, they need to start tweeting and writing early in the morning. 6 o'clock is 9 o'clock East Coast time zone, and that's how you make use of the data that you gather from Rowfeeder or Exportly. And you're also looking at what kind of people are following you. You can see that 34% have 500 to 1,000 followers. It just gives you a sense of what is your network amplification? How far is it going to travel? Do you have people who have a lot of people that are following them? It just gives you a sense of how far can your message go. In this one, right below this one, you can see the breakdown of the one that's on the right-hand side. So it actually shows you out of the organizations that are following you, who have the most amplification. For example, for this particular example, there is a follower that's following this organization, that's Room to Read organization, that has 550,000 people that are following them. Nonprofit orgs, Cantor, all of these. So how do you use this information? In your case, it may or may not be, it may not be people with that kind of amplification. It helps you identify who you need to engage with. Your top 10 people are the ones that you really want to engage with, and find a way to comment on them. What you can do is create a Twitter list, and we'll go over how to do that tomorrow in our next webinar, actually. What you can do is you can put all of these 10 people that have the biggest follower base, or top 15 people, whatever you decide to work with. You can take these people and put them in a separate list on Twitter. And every day when you log in, you spend a few minutes looking at what these people are talking about, cultivating these people, sharing information about your event with these people, and saying, hey, you follow us, not quite that way, but hey, we are organizing this open house for our PIP campaign. Will you please RT? Because you see, if you ask them to spend or spread the word for you, what kind of amplification they have available. And one quick tip, when you're responding to them or when you're writing to them, if you do, instead of just @Room to Read, which is their Twitter handle, if you do dot, which is just a period @Room to Read, it shows to all their followers too. But usually if you're just saying @Room to Read, this is my question, or please RT for me, it only shows to all your network, which may be 1,000, 2,000, or 5,000, right? But if you do .Room to Read, which is @Room to Read, it actually automatically shows it to not just your followers, but all 551,000 of their followers. And that's a quick tip for you. And that's how you use the data that you gather in these reports and utilize for promoting your event or your cause, but primarily how do you get these people to spread the word about the PIP campaign. So we'll keep moving. Next is make your event social. Make it very easy for people to check in and to communicate to their networks that they are at your location. It is a location-based contest. You are a physical location. Each of you, 40 sites, have a physical presence. So you want to enable your people who walk through the door in your museums or historic sites to let their people know that they're there. And the easiest way to do that is Foursquare check-in and Facebook check-in. Facebook started a very similar platform, but people can choose to check in either, as long as they're spreading the word. You can have signage at your site. Very simple signage that reminds people of, hey, glad you're here. Please check in on Foursquare, because sometimes I go to events or I go to museums and such, and I get so busy looking at things or chatting with people that I forget to check in, even though I love checking in. So you want to have visual reminders in many different places where people can check in at natural pause points. So when they enter, or at the ticket window is one place, at the very entrance, in different corners of the places where people are turning, or mostly around turns, where there are natural pauses. It's a great place to put a small, simple sign that says, don't forget to check in on Foursquare. We'll get into how to set up Foursquare and make sure you've checked in. With a quick show of hands, how many of you have now claimed your site? Okay, I see Amy.
Wonderful. Looks like Carl as well. So we're asking about, in terms of Foursquare in particular, how many of you have set up a presence there and claimed your site? We're going to get into that in just a second, but it looks like John and Julie have as well. That's wonderful.
Wonderful. We'll get into how to do that if you haven't done that already, or if you need to create a new, because if you don't have a robust presence where people haven't signed in, you might not. Okay, so if you go to Foursquare, you go to the search places or search people, in this where my mouse is right now. You enter the name of your organization, as most people will enter it, and you'll see variations of your organization's name. And as that shows up, it'll show you Louis Armstrong Museum, or Apollo Theater, or whatnot, whatever your organization's name is, once you enter that in the search window, it will show you how many people, it will show you if there is a check-in already created for that. And most people, if they don't see a site created by you, they'll create one just to check in, and that's totally okay. So if you see more than one option, you might see 3 or 4, which is what I've seen in most people's cases. You see which one is the most active, number one. You see whether you have the most tips, and you claim that one. You can't claim every one of those. You could, but what you want to do is you want to really solidify one presence. So you take, if you're starting out, the one that's most active, you click on that, and at the bottom of the page it says claim your venue. You click on that, and this is what it shows you. Here is something really important. When you come to this page, claim your venue on Foursquare, when you search your place, if you click on that, it shows you an option for claiming. You click on that, and when you're here, it has your address as listed on public sites. So if you enter your organization's name, say Apollo Theater, you enter that, it will show you the phone number. It will show you the phone. It will show you the address and phone number on Google. Make sure that there's somebody that's there to answer the phone. Many cases I've seen, even if there is somebody on the phone, even though the phone number and address are all correct, when you press yes here, it says Foursquare is not able to verify. Then you have to go to try a different way, which is basically they will send you a little mailer in the mail within 5 to 10 business days that has a little code in it. So you have to be on the lookout if they can't verify your phone number, and it has nothing to do with you being able to pick up or not. They will send you a mailer. Once that mailer comes in the mail, that's when you have that code and you enter that and you claim that site. So be very mindful of that. Don't wait till the 26th to claim your site. Claim it as soon as possible, so if the process doesn't go through, you have chance to wait for the mailer. That's number one. Other scenario is you go ahead and create a new site. You add a new venue and you go with that, and you just let the other ones be. If the mailer doesn't come or something, that doesn't mean that you can't have a Foursquare presence. It just means that you're going to have to recreate it from beginning, and you have to add a venue, list yourself while you're logged in as main contact, and start working on that. And we'll get into those screens right here. So in case you're not able to validate your site, you'll go through Foursquare, you'll join if you haven't already joined, and this is how you enter an event information. We've already talked about how you claim your venue. This tutorial that we're going to go through is for event check-in. If you're just creating a check-in for just the event and you're spreading the word about the event, in addition to the venue, what you do is you will enter, as you see in this screenshot. Okay, you'll see that instead of the first name, you'll enter event name. You'll enter your username and password. You'll enter your email and then current location, and keep going through that. And this is for promoting an event. Add venue, that's the actual physical address. You will still add the event name as the main venue here. If you are using Foursquare to create a check-in for an event and not for just the venue. And you will enter the event name, and this is how it will show you event space that has been created. And then you'll add a tip. This is really important to do. This is what enables you to use Foursquare the most efficiently, is to create to add tips and to-dos for people to do. Add tips like make sure to go to this corner, make sure to check out this exhibit, make sure to check this out, or go to this service window to collect a prize, and so on. So this is really important. Make sure you do this on a regular basis, and this allows people who are just walking in and checking in to see things that they don't want to miss. And this is really a very active way of engaging these people.
And another tip that we alluded to earlier when we were talking about hashtags is to really use a service like TweetChat or Twitterful that allows you to create a feed. And this is something that, especially if you gather large audiences, You can project on the wall, and it really gets a lot of engagement. My favorite new word is twaffic, because it generates a lot of engagement from your community because they get sort of the ego trip of seeing their tweets projected on a wall as long as they include the hashtag. So certainly, whether it's through signage or whether it's through an MC announcement, whatever the case may be, you want to encourage people to include the hashtag, possibly do a tweet out like I talked about earlier. And if they do that, then they'll get to see their, their face or their Twitter image along with their tweet projected up on the wall for everyone to see. Possibly they can retweet or respond or send a related tweet to a message. But it's a great way to get a lot of engagement around Twitter. And then obviously everybody that's tweeting, anyone who's following them is going to see that. At least potentially, and so it's a wonderful way to create new followers on Twitter.
And usually it's a great thing to do if you're doing a performance or you're doing any kind of lecture format or session, like a speaking session. It works really well for those kind of formats. But if it's an open house where people are just mingling and milling around, then it usually doesn't work as well. But if you are hosting something that's a lecture format, this is a great tool to utilize. Finally, express a lot of gratitude. Retweet, reply, thank you. Say thank you to your volunteers, to your key supporters, VIPs, not just when your campaign ends, but throughout the process on all platforms. It's really important to do that to ensure their continued participation and make them feel good about supporting you. We'll get into QR codes. Many of us have talked about this during our calls, and many of you have asked questions about this. This is what a QR code looks like. What a QR code does is if your smartphone has a scanner, you can scan this QR code just like you would scan a barcode, and it takes your smartphone to a website. So the common example of this is if you're asking people to go vote for you and saying, if you don't have a Facebook account, that's okay, you can go and vote on this site. It's a very easy and error-free way for them to get to the voting site. American Express has designed a poster that you can utilize, or you can use this QR code on a number of different materials as we've talked in the calls. You can create your own poster that says, please vote for us, and this is how you get to the site. Many people are talking about doing something like having a QR code on T-shirts, where your volunteers wear T-shirts that have QR codes, have you voted today? And they can just scan on the T-shirt, and that's a visual reminder for people to look at the T-shirt and say, oh, what is this all about? And you can say, we are participating in the Partners in Preservation contest, and we want people to vote for us and support and keep this historic place and support this historic place. So this is how you can get to the website to vote, and you don't have to type. It makes it really easy for people to get to your voting site or your Facebook page. And you can copy, paste the QR code from the American Express banner or poster that they're sending out in marketing materials, or you can create your own. Whichever way you decide, be sure to check with Sari and share the metrics of how many people are being sent to that site. American Express is very interested in knowing that metric.
Yeah, I mean, and again, just like the Facebook ads, American Express will be doing a pretty extensive campaign around these QR codes. However, using some of the free tools we'll talk about in a second, it may make sense for you to also create a code to take people specifically to your page to vote, your website, your Facebook presence, etc., and really augment that portion of the campaign. This is especially true if you have a young audience, whether that's online or in person. In general, if you look at the research of about 14 million and growing quickly mobile users that have downloaded QR scanners, a lot of them tend to skew younger. And so this could be a really great way to direct traffic to your voting site, as mentioned.
And this is a site, it's called qrstuff.com. This is a site you can use for creating free QR code. You can enter the website URL right here. You can choose a foreground color if you want to use a different color, or you want to use colors of your logo. It can show you something that you can download to use on your marketing materials or on creating T-shirts and whatnot. You can print the entire QR code. You can email that to people, or you can see some creative ideas here, whether it's a cup or a T-shirt or a cap, whatever you decide to use that QR code for. This is one example of many free sites that are available. We wanted to give you at least one example where you can do that. We'll go into QR scanner. Even if, whether it's the American Express poster you decide to use, or you create your own T-shirts or whatnot, if people ask you, what is this? Oh, I have a smartphone, but I don't have a QR code scanner. Depending on what phone they have, if they have an Apple smartphone, iPhone, they can go to the Apple App Store and download something called QR Journal or any kind of QR scanner. If they have an Android phone, they can go to the Android Google Play or Marketplace, which is Apple equivalent of App Store. They can go and enter the word QR scanner, and they can find a free scanner on that. Or you can direct them to a site, or you can direct them to a website like QR Journal, which has multiple platform, multiple mobile platform QR code scanners. So make sure when you are, if you choose to utilize this technology, you know how people can get a QR scanner if they don't already have one. Because many people that walk through your doors would be intrigued by it, but they will not have used the QR scanner. And they need that in order to utilize this technology and participate.
And I think that the key thing here is, 14 million people using this already may sound like a lot, but it's, it pales in comparison to the 850 million that have used Facebook in the last 30 days. So there's certainly a much larger online audience that, you may have access to through online channels as well as through your live events. So to Ritu's point, make sure not only that you let people know where they can download a scanner, but in particular, as you see right here, the key word here is free. So whichever, whichever application, whichever program you want to encourage people to use, make sure they can get free access to that, because that's going to be really important to encourage adoption. And then, of course, this is just a conduit to get people to actually take action. The other thing Ritu mentioned is that, it's really not as effective and it's not sufficient to just tell people, please, get online and vote for us. You need to tell them why they are voting. And the answer to that question is not just so we can win $1 million. The whole point here, as we've talked about in the past, is that people don't give to you, they give through you. And they don't give to you because you have needs, they give to you because you meet needs. So ultimately realize that this campaign and even your organization as a whole is simply a conduit for impact. And you are asking people to make an investment, whether that's of their time, their dollars, their attention, their Twitter or their Facebook following list, whatever the case may be, you're asking them for something. So there has to be a return on investment. They have to understand what is the incremental impact that you can have if they get engaged. And yes, that might mean winning $1 million, but what is the impact that $1 million would have on your organization? Is it going to allow you to serve 10,000 children next year? Is it going to allow you to add a new wing dedicated to promoting cultural preservation in Staten Island or the Bronx? What exactly can you do with that money? And that, more than anything, is what you really want to promote to your followers, to the people that are at your events, so they can really wrap their heads around why should they care, why should they get engaged. And finally, before we wrap up and leave time for some questions here, we wanted to check in briefly on the action plan. So in the past, on the first webinar, hopefully those of you, I know most of the folks on the call got to either participate in that live or see the recording of that. Hopefully you've made the time now to create an integrated marketing plan, and look at across the entire Partners in Preservation campaign, and not just across social media, but across all of your marketing efforts in general, including live events, including PR, including any advertising or on-site signage, or the way you're going to answer the phone for this, this period of time. What is your plan? And just putting some thoughts down on paper across all these different channels is really important. Similarly, as you look to your online efforts, when you look at all your outbound communications across Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, email, your website, etc., a blog if you have one, who is in charge of what, when. And Sari sent out an email with a template attached, which is just a really simple spreadsheet that you can use as what's known as an editorial calendar. And just really simply, it breaks down on Tuesday at 11 a.m., Bob is in charge of sending out a tweet in general about this topic. On Wednesday at 4 p.m., Mary's going to send out a Facebook post in general about this topic. That's a really powerful tool, especially when it's not just one person who's in charge of your social media outreach. Hopefully all of you are looking to engage your staff and even your board and potentially some key allies in outbound messaging around the Partners in Preservation campaign and in general. And having a consolidated document like this allows you to understand who's in charge of what, so that everyone's on the same page, and then if it's my turn to send out a Facebook post, I don't have to go through Facebook, I don't have to look on Twitter to figure out what's been said recently and what's about to be said, so I can make sure that I'm relevant, that I'm not duplicating messaging, etc. So this is a really powerful and simple tool. And then finally, take advantage of those coaching calls that we make available. So just really quickly, by a show of hands through the GoToWebinar interface, how many of you have already created a draft editorial calendar? So again, that's using the spreadsheet that we sent out to map out messaging and who's in charge of what. This is great. We see a lot of hands going up from Amy, from Carl, from Alyssa, Dana, John, and Julie. So it looks like a good chunk of the folks that are at least joining us live today have been able to take the initiative and put together at least a draft editorial calendar. In our upcoming coaching calls, we're certainly happy to look at those, offer any feedback, and help you fine-tune this really important and powerful tool.
And the last call that we had the last webinar we had, we talked about the check-in and action plan for that. And just a quick reminder, if you created already, finalize your editorial calendar, sign up for webinars. Sari already sent you a link with all the upcoming webinars. Please, please, please sign up ahead of time and put it on your calendars. And then if you haven't already done so, schedule for a coaching call and let us know if the times available don't work for you. We are happy to work with your schedule and find a time that actually does work for you.
So these are really the three things that we're hoping after today's call, after today's webinar, that you can do moving forward. In addition to following up on that editorial calendar and scheduling those webinars and those calls, the three things we're looking at today are, number one, claim your Foursquare venue. And if it's not already created so that you can claim it, create a new one. Also, create events on Facebook, on Foursquare, so that people can check in to those. We talked a lot about that today. And as Ritu mentioned, you can create a draft version of your Facebook event page so that when it goes live for the campaign, you can just simply hit a button. And finally, the thing we want to encourage everyone to do is to create a hashtag for your events, for your organization, so that you can use that and start promoting that extensively with the campaign.
And now we'll open up to some questions. I have a couple questions already. I have one question that's about authentication and claiming process for Foursquare. I'm going to quickly walk you through. When you click on Claim Your Foursquare Venue, it has a choice of either verifying it online. When you say, this is my venue, claim your venue, you have a choice of whether verifying it on phone or there are other ways. The very first choice is on phone, and you always want to choose that. And if it's not able to verify automatically by calling your phone, the other option is by mail. So either the system will be able to authenticate you are the right person or you are the representative of the organization, and it's not some random person claiming it. If you're not, it will basically send a mailer to the registered address of that museum or that historic site. That takes 5 to 7 business days at the very minimum for it to come. And that's just a small little mailer that comes in that has some sort of a authentication code, like an 8 to 10 digit code that you need to go back to the site follow up again and say claim, and you have a code and you'll enter that code. If that does not work, it does not mean you cannot participate. You basically have to create a venue, and that takes 5 minutes to do so. Our emails are on the screen. If you have any problem at all with creating a Foursquare, it takes us 5 minutes to literally walk you through the process by sharing our screen or your screen. Please don't hesitate to send us a call and send us an email or call us, and we'll be happy to help you set up your Foursquare.
Yeah, and I think the thing here is even if you can set up a new venue, if there's an existing one, it probably has a larger follower base, and when people go to check in, they're probably going to check in with the one that's more established. So ideally, you want to claim that existing venue, and like Ritu said earlier, just make sure you're sitting by the phone so that when the phone rings, pretty much immediately you're there to answer it.
And make sure when it shows you that option, it actually shows you the address and phone number of that site. You see that it says, this is the site address and this is the phone number, is that correct? And you say, yes, do verification. Don't do verification unless you or somebody else is nearby the phone to answer that, to complete your verification. I think we have one more question. There's a question about if there are 2 or multiple pages on Facebook page, is there a way to merge them? Unfortunately, there isn't a way to merge or move over people that like you on Facebook on one site to the other site. You can choose to make one of them and sunset the other, but there is not a way for us, for you actually, to merge 2 separate Facebook presence. You just have to decide which one is the most accurate and correctly set up and promote that and sunset the other one. Take some time in sunsetting that. That means sending information to people and saying, we are going to sunset this page by so-and-so date, and giving them a few reminders, and then just basically sunsetting. What you don't want to do is leave both pages open, because what happens is people get confused and they start interacting in both places, some people here, some people there, and it dilutes your presence. So you really want to, because you don't want to have the burden, or your staff the burden, of managing 2 separate Facebook pages. You want to really focus on one and decide which one is right and then sunset the other one.
So hopefully that was helpful, Amy. We do have a couple minutes for additional questions if anybody else has one. And then as Ritu mentioned, our emails and our Twitter handles are on the screen. We are absolutely at your disposal and happy to help out and make ourselves available in whatever way is going to be most useful and most supportive for you. So we do encourage you to take us up on those free one-on-one coaching calls, as well as to join us for the upcoming webinars, including one tomorrow, Thursday, as well as Friday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday. So we've got 3 more webinars coming up this week, plenty of content. All of these webinars are being recorded, I should add. And so Sari sent out the email today with the link for the first 2 webinars we've already done. Then this one will be sent out momentarily along with the links for the upcoming webinars later this week. And in Sari's email also has the time and the registration links for all of those, as well as the link to sign up for those coaching calls. And as I mentioned, you're also more than welcome to contact us directly to schedule something if if your schedule doesn't accommodate any of the times that are in the online system. So we'll give a couple more minutes in case there's any additional questions. In the meantime, I think I'm just going to reiterate. We talked about timing when we got into Hootsuite and scheduling tools. Remember that timing for social media outreach, on the whole, should be the opposite of email timing. So for email, all the research shows that you basically don't want to be email number 32 of an unread message out of 50. You want to try and pop up at the top of someone's inbox. So Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday, mid-morning and mid-afternoon, approximately 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. or 2 to 3:30 p.m. have been proven to be the times when the highest percentage of people are likely to open up your message, which is obviously crucial to getting them to take action, including voting for you in the campaign. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, most likely in the Eastern time zone if that's where your audience is based, is the best time to send email. You know, traditionally for social media, it's the opposite of that, and obviously you want to look at exactly when your audience responds the best. But most of the research has been done on professional audiences, which tend to respond best during the week at one of 4 times a day. One is in the morning when people are on their way into work, 8 to 9 a.m. The next is during lunchtime, approximately noon to 1 p.m. At the end of the workday, when they're on their way home, about 4:30 to 6 p.m., you know, when things are winding down and on their subway ride back and on their smartphones. But actually, statistically, at least from the research that's been done, the best time to send out tweets and Facebook posts is after the kids have gone to bed, from about 9:30 to 11 p.m. And so again, there hasn't been much research done on non-professional audiences or on weekend data, but as a starting point, that may be a good time to schedule out your tweets and to focus your Facebook posts as well.
Well, great. If you guys have no other questions, we will end the webinar here today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this webinar. Oh, Amy has a question.
I think we answered that one.
Okay. We'll end this webinar here. If you have any questions that we haven't answered today, please feel welcome to send us an email or call us, and we'll be happy to help out in whatever way we can.
So thank you again for your time and for your attention today. It's an honor to support all of you and your organizations and the causes that you care about. We are very much at your disposal, and we're excited and honored to be working with all of you. So thanks again, and we'll look forward to speaking with you all tomorrow for our next webinar.
Great. Thank you. Have a good day.